This is Ogfza Reports.
The federal government of Nigeria, in its determination to create a conducive atmosphere for business to flourish and impact more positively on the Nigerian economy, in July 2016 inaugurated the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PBEC. The council, chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, was designed as a flagship initiative to reform the business environment in the country. As a follow-up on the government's agenda to promote a more friendly business environment in the country, the then acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, in May 2017 signed the Executive Order Number 001 on the ease of doing business in Nigeria. The executive order, which is part of the federal government's agenda to make the country a global investment destination, sought to promote transparency by directing all its ministries, departments, and agencies to publish a complete list of all requirements for obtaining permits, licenses, and approvals, including fees and timeliness in their premises and on their websites within the next 21 days.
For the first time, Nigeria was acknowledged as one of the top 10 most improved economies, especially in terms of the business climate of the country. Now, this success is a testament to the importance of the executive order as a blueprint for fundamental government reform, and it demonstrates how quickly impact can be made with systemic intervention and unwavering government commitment. But perhaps most importantly, our successes so far demonstrate the game-changing effect of executive, legislative, and judicial cooperation, as well as the collaboration between us and the states, us I mean the federal government, and the states, and of course the private sector. So today, significant legislative and judicial reforms have been achieved, working closely with the National Assembly and the judiciary. In 2017, PBEC, in collaboration with the National Assembly, delivered 2 acts which enable access to credit. And this is, of course, the vital requirement for the SMEs. This year, the Companies and Allied Matters Bill has been repealed and reenacted by Senate and is currently awaiting passage by the House of Representatives. The judiciary has also been a very strong partner in reforming the whole dispute resolution landscape. And this, of course, again, is a key factor for investors.
In demonstrating its avowed commitment to the promotion of the ease of doing business in Nigeria, the federal government had made provisions in the 2017 budget for the establishment and funding of 6 special economic zones in the country in partnership with the Afrexim Bank and the Exim Bank of China, which has committed no less than $1 billion to the project, with a specific goal to attract foreign direct investments and to ensure the growth of local business. In line with its economic growth and recovery plan, the federal government decided to revisit the process and rules governing business operations in the country.
This journey of building and enabling business environment is perhaps even more a journey of national transformation, because what we're talking about is changing attitudes that have long been entrenched. We're talking about changing mindsets, because it's not just about putting in place systems. It is more about changing the way people think. I mean, if people have for years thought that when I am in a position as a regulator, it means that this is also a position where I can bully people, I can make money for myself and all of that. If people have that impression and have had that impression for years, it will take a while. And those who they deal with also believe that yes, perhaps they have a right to actually do what they're doing. So it takes a while to be able to change that. And part of it, of course, is ensuring that there is consequence for misbehavior. And this is one of the issues that the president himself has asked that we take a good look at. He believes very strongly that we must look at how it is that those who do not comply with instructions, do not comply with orders, or are found to be misbehaving one way or the other should be sanctioned appropriately.
A deliberate policy conceived to jumpstart the Nigerian economy was anchored on 5 enablers, which form part of the federal government's growth and diversification plan, including the establishment of PBEC and the special economic zones, attraction of foreign and domestic investments, institutionalization of a structural reform agenda, as well as the establishment of 21st century trade agreements that entail optimal benefit for all partners.
I think sometimes we leave a lot on the table by way of incentives, which may or may not attract the type of investment we're looking for. And then does the investment stay when the incentive ceases? A number of things around that. We need investment, and we need it yesterday. And that the focus, even of PBEC, should be around looking at how to attract FDI.
The federal government's efforts at stimulating economic growth through the promotion of business initiatives in the country soon received global recognition when the World Bank, in its Ease of Doing Business report, ranked Nigeria 145th out of 190 countries surveyed in the Ease of Doing Business Index of 2018. According to the report, Nigeria had leapfrogged from a distant 169th position, moving 24 places to its current 145th position. As the World Bank had observed, Nigeria made starting a business faster by allowing electronic sampling of registering documents, a situation it described as unprecedented in the annals of Nigeria's economic history.
We think it's a critical time to advance, to move forward. We think we're at a critical juncture in this journey of creating the right enabling environment, the service orientation, creating a service culture for our country, for our economy, for our businesses, for all our stakeholders. Our challenge and our vision is to make Nigeria one of the most attractive countries in the world to do business, one of the safest places in the world to do business, and one of the least cost places to do business, meaning that it's cost effective. And all that is achievable if we work at it together, but it's a journey, and that journey is a marathon, it's not a 100-meter dash. But there is no question that as we take stock, it's very clear that we've actually come a long way from where we started. And I think it's something that if we continue, we can be very, very certain that without any shadow of doubt, that we'll get to the promised land, we'll get to a better environment.
Reacting to the report, which classifies Nigeria as one of the top 10 countries that improved on the Ease of Doing Business Index, President Buhari described it as a reflection of his government's efforts to make it easy for foreign business visitors to obtain visas on arrival to the country, pass through the airports and seaports to do their businesses with ease and speed. Leveraging on this achievement, President Buhari has set an ambitious target of moving the country 20 places in next year's World Bank's ranking on the Ease of Doing Business, and his government has continued to pursue this laudable objective with the implementation of a policy geared towards providing an entrepreneurial ecosystem for the country. The policy includes creating an open and fair economic environment, access to equal economic opportunities, lower transaction costs, and drastically reduce corrupt practices in the business environment.
Executive Order number 1 on the promotion of transparency and efficiency in the business environment was issued in May 2017. The order contained measures that ease the process of business registration, approval of permits, granting visas, and streamlining port operations. We are committed to continuing and accelerating the ease of doing business reforms, which are critical to attracting new investments, growing the economy, and creating jobs for our people.
In June this year, Nigeria's Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, Ogfza, emerged as one of the major drivers of the federal government's policy on ease of doing business when PBEC ranked it first among 44 government agencies in the implementation of the ease of doing business policy. This spectacular success was recorded less than 2 years after a new management led by Umana Okon-Umana took over as the managing director of the Oil and Gas Zones Authority in 2016.
At the beginning of this new administration, we had a retreat and we agreed on a roadmap. And surprisingly, that was exactly what the executive order, finally came to, talk about. We achieved that because we now have standard operating procedures, in Ogfza. So all our investors, our clients, they are aware of a procedure for every of their transaction, and we follow it according, to the regulation of the authority. We have also automated our operations to a large extent. Most of the things that we do manually before, they are now automated. From the point of view of operations, which I work, before now, our clients, when they make applications, it takes days before they are completed. But now we have timeline of 48 hours. And that 48 hours is shared between the authority and Nigeria Customs Service that also supports our operation. So for every request by a client, we must ensure that in 24 hours from our own side, it is completed. And we also ensure that from the customs side, they use the next 4 hours to complete it. And recently we've noticed that those things are even done before that 24 hours. They are done within 5 or 6 hours. So a lot has changed that I think clients are now able to turn around their applications, faster than before.
The Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, Ogfza, was established by law in 1996 to regulate and maintain free zones that focus on oil and gas. Part of its mandate include to facilitate export promotion, attract foreign direct investment into the country, and to serve as a major driver of economic growth. It was for Mr. Amana and his team a huge task that must be achieved with the right policies in place. Their vision from the outset was to make the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority the premier investment hub on the African continent.
The Jamil Ali Free Zone in Dubai, for example, has attracted over 5,200 companies from over 145 countries and accounts for up to 25% of the gross domestic product of the UAE. So I am happy that Nigeria is now paying attention to special economic zones. Our main objective is to attract foreign direct investments. And that is why in our vision statements, we are positioning ourselves to become the premier agency of government responsible for attracting, securing and sustaining foreign direct investment inflows into Nigeria.
Last year, the authority embarked on a process of investing in cutting-edge technology as part of a strategy to deliver a brand new Ogfza. The process had culminated in the signing of agreement in May 2017 with Oracle, currently one of the world's leading information technology brands, to deploy its cloud services to power Ogfza's operations. The Oracle Cloud solution was to ensure that the authority did not falter in its commitment to new service delivery standards, such as the acquisition of a license from 28 to 14 days and a reduction in the duration for license renewal from 14 days to 48 hours.
We are moving with technology, so it is a milestone for us in Ogfza. We're very happy, and again, to work with Oracle, an outstanding brand in this area. And I believe that ultimately the results will speak for all of us. Our clients would benefit from this as soon as possible. And then this will fit into our overall vision of being the premier agency in Nigeria, but maybe we'll even move to becoming the premier agency in Africa, or one of the foremost agencies even around the world to attract foreign direct investments.
The whole essence of this thing is to transform them to an efficient operational organization. This will help them in driving down their cost. This will also help them in attracting foreign investors, and it's also supposed to help them in efficiency in terms of their operation, automating their operation. This is the whole essence of what Oracle is doing with them, and it's just the beginning of a journey. This is just a starting point. Our expectation is that at the completion of this project, oil and gas free trade zone are going to look at other modules they are going to add, you understand, to be the whole essence is for them to be the flagship organization in terms of automation, in terms of operational efficiency, in terms of effectiveness in running their day-to-day activities.
The technological innovation introduced in the daily operations of the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority was a successful means of retooling its processes to meet the high expectations of its clients. In the same breath, it has helped to advance the authority's application of the federal government's policy of ease of doing business.
We are required to also set up a website, a functional website. We are also requested to upload our services and a price list so that you can access it and know this service, this is what it costs, so that nobody is going to ask you to pay any other thing apart from what is displayed at our website. That has been complied with. We have client services desk, which handles complaints. If a licensee is not satisfied with the service or has a complaint, it reports to that desk. The numbers are also displayed on our website, telephone numbers from which you can call and make the complaint. Once that complaint is made, the officers at the desk will channel the complaint to the appropriate department with the MD kept in copy. So it's able to track when the complaint came in, who was supposed to handle it, and when it was resolved. We have done this and they are satisfied. The sector we service, the oil and gas sector, is populated by expatriates, and so they have their expectations and their experiences. So if you are going to work or service them, you have to reason and act like them. And so we have our personnel trained. We have provided whatever materials they need to function, equipment. There's a very conducive working environment for staff. That is why we are able to keep up with this.
It is interesting to note that it did not take long for the dividends of hard work to begin to fall in place. In February last year, Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Okechukwu Enelama, observed that Ogfza had created 200,000 direct and indirect jobs for Nigerians and had attracted over $20 billion in investments to the country. Dr. Enelama was optimistic that with Ogfza example, the future of the Nigerian economy looked bright. The uncommon achievement of Ogfza under the leadership of Mr. Amana is described as a reflection of his hard work and industry. Soon after assumption of office, the current MD of the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority had organized a management retreat where he came up with a plan on how to improve service delivery and expand the authority's revenue base.
Our efforts are already paying dividends because for the 2017 fiscal year, we're able to increase our revenue position by over 100% compared to 2016. And because of that development and also taking careful note of the other sources embedded in the law, we are confident that it will be possible for the authority to cover its recurrent costs without depending on federal budgets, federal appropriation. So I met with my management, and after analyzing our position, more so with the very dramatic increase in our revenues in 2017 compared to 2016, deriving directly from the measures we had put in place, we decided that we'll cover our recurrent costs, recurrent expenditure from our internally generated revenue. So we wrote to the Honorable Minister of Finance informing the Federal Minister of Finance of our intention to pull out of federal appropriation, that's treasury funding of our recurrent costs. Is not a step that agencies usually take, but we had to do that because when you think about it, it is also a wake-up call for the workers in the authority, because they know that they have to work hard, they have to be creative to ensure that we generate the revenues required to cover our recurrent costs. And I believe that this measure taken by the authority is in line with the policy of the federal government to bring down recurrent costs, because it adds up. If all other agencies should on their own take measures to reduce their dependence on federal government revenues or appropriations for the funding of recurrent expenditure, the impacts will be that a lot more revenues will be available for capital expenditure.
The secret behind the success story of the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority is attributable to its decision to key into the federal government's policy of creating an open and fair economic environment, which is aimed at providing unhindered access to economic opportunities, lowering transaction costs in doing business, and ensuring less corruption in the business environment. The transformation of the business landscape in the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority has become a reality following the implementation of a deliberate policy of collaborating with other government agencies and parastatals, such as the Nigerian Immigration Service, particularly in ports operations.
We had a meeting with Customs and the Nigerian Immigration Service where we reached an agreement that whatever application that we forward to them, if for any reason they cannot attend to it, they should return it back to us within 24 hours. And the service delivery should be within 48 hours. We agreed, that's in the service level agreement. The same thing for immigrations, because for SEPAC visa, we go to the immigrations on behalf of our clients. And so we submit applications to them, they process and return. So by agreeing on having this service delivered within 48 hours, our licensees are happy with it. Monthly, we obtain reports from our operations department. The report details when the application was sent to customs and when it eventually came out, when the service requested was granted. So with this, we are able to monitor, and we have seen complete compliance.
The energetic managing director of the authority says the milestone it has achieved and the recognition from various quarters will spur him and his management team to go the extra mile in their quest to faithfully execute the federal government's policy on economic growth and development. What the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority has so far demonstrated is its unwavering commitment to the federal government's economic recovery and growth plan, which in part seeks to correct imbalances in its trade relationships and reversing negotiating failures encountered in the past. At the moment, the Nigerian economy, under the supervision of President Muhammadu Buhari, is bouncing back at an unprecedented pace. With the continued support of agencies like the Oil and Gas Free Zones Authority, the economy is expected to revert to its pride of place as the biggest and the healthiest on the African continent.
This is Ogfza Reports.